SGA once again. Little hesitation. The left hand. What a move by SGA.
Attacker for another block. Chet Holmgren, the long arm of the law.
Back in the game. These are key minutes without SGA. And another drive. J. Dom cocks it back and throws it down.
This is Udart. You're listening to the Uncontested.
What is up, and welcome to the Uncontested Podcast, coming to you live Saturday, May 24th, and I wish we weren't. Thunder get absolutely torched in Game 3, 143-101. Lose by 42 to the Minnesota Timberwolves up in Minneapolis in Game 3. Series is now at 2-1. I'm your host for the evening, Jacob Niffen. Got my guy, Justin Peabody, with me.
Hello, everybody.
Before we briefly dive into this game, spoiler alert, probably not going to be a long podcast. We are brought to you by the Blue Wire Podcast Network and our friends over at Prairie Artisan Ales. Go enjoy yourself some Prairie. That'll drown the blues of this game. You can also find us on all your favorite social media channels, including YouTube. You can watch the show live on YouTube. You can also watch the replay on YouTube. You can also join our Patreon, get like exclusive content and access to the Discord, which is really cool. I think that's all I got. Justin, I don't know where you want to start, buddy, but 143-101, Minnesota beats Oklahoma City. Here, let's start here. When I look at the overall stats, Minnesota shoots 10 more field goal attempts than the Thunder. Thunder shot 41% from the field, Minnesota 57. Thunder took 44 three-pointers tonight. That's a lot. They shot 32% on that. Meanwhile, the Wolves shot 50%. That 32 is very misleading, as a lot of those came in the fourth quarter. For most of the game, the Thunder were at 20%.
Yep.
Free throws, pretty much even. Thunder got out-rebounded by 20, out-assisted by 11, turned the ball over 5 more times than the Timberwolves, got outscored in the paint by 14, and the Timberwolves' largest lead was 45.
It's bad. It's all bad. All the stats are bad, and it matches what we watched on court. I think the most disappointing thing for me, Jacob, we were talking about it in our group chat earlier today, was Oklahoma City had an opportunity. They looked dominant for most of the first 2 games. In a great position. You go up 3-0, and that's essentially the death blow.
Yeah.
We knew Minnesota was going to punch back. I think what's disappointing is seeing the lack of execution, the lack of, I don't know if it, I was going to say game plan, but I don't know if it was game plan as much as it was decision making. The number of three-pointers Oklahoma City shot tonight, 44. They shot 21, or no. They shot 22 in the first half. They shot 21 in all of game 1.
Yep.
And I think that was so encouraging to me coming out of the Denver series to see this team come out and say, we're going to go get the ball in the paint. That's why you played Rudy off the floor. That's why you're able to overcome your poor shooting from the outside. So to come into Minnesota tonight and do that just felt like you played right into Minnesota's hand. And it felt very similar to me to Memphis Game 3. The only difference is you don't have John Morant getting injured right before halftime. That's the only difference. Both of those games, the Thunder just got absolutely smacked in the face to start that one.
Yes.
And that's concerning. It's concerning to see them do it again. I joked about it on our Game 2 postgame show. I said, well, this part wasn't a joke, but like, Minnesota's going to win a game. They might win both games at home because shooting was the big swing factor. And what I joked about was it might be like Memphis Game 3. I didn't think it actually would be bad. I definitely didn't think it would be worse. And that is concerning to see from this Thunder team.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. We knew Minnesota was going to come out back to the wall, throwing punches. we thought Oklahoma City would come out ready for that and respond. And you were saying, like, is it game plan? Is it execution? To me, it was a level of relaxation at the start of the game, where you got punched and got dizzied and could never get back on your feet.
Yeah.
Felt like the Thunder were constantly playing behind the ball. That felt like the Thunder were constantly on their back foot.
Yep. It's what the Thunder did to the Wolves in the first two games.
Exactly. Being reactive, not proactive.
Yep.
I thought the Wolves were more physical. The Thunder just looked out of it. Like you said, it's one game. Yep. You lose by 42 or you lose by 2. It's still a 2-1 series. Thunder are in the lead. Silver lining, Justin, if this is the style of game that went down tonight, but the Wolves just didn't shoot well and win by 6, I think that's maybe a worse result than what happened tonight. Getting absolutely obliterated puts a new level of urgency to you, where if the Wolves just didn't shoot well, the Thunder could say, like, oh, we're still okay. Look, we only lost by 6. I think maybe getting blitzed like this is a splash of cold water in the face.
It better be.
You probably shouldn't need that in the Western Conference Finals.
Correct.
But I also think at some point there's just like this. I think a few things. Number one, I think just as human beings, you can't have your foot all the way down on the gas in everything in your life 24/7. There's ebbs and flows. And then this is a classic case of like just a game snowballing on you.
Totally.
I mean, the Wolves shot 57%, dude. 57 and 50 was their splits.
And that's why I said what I said after game 2. This Timberwolves team, they are the most vibey, flow state offense in the league. And that is when they're successful, is when they're just like playing in a flow. And that was pretty much what they did from the word go tonight, which they were never really able to do in Oklahoma City. We knew the home crowd would help. We knew the home, familiar setting. You're going to see guys like DiVincenzo shoot better. You're going to see Naz Reid shoot better. You're going to see Jaden McDaniels shoot better. And all those guys shot better tonight. But to your point, the snowballing was absolutely a factor. I saw a lot of comments on Twitter talking about how championship teams don't get beat like this. That's just patently not true. You just don't remember them unless you're a fan of the team. Mm-hmm. The Celtics last year lost by nearly 40 in game 4 to the Mavericks. When the Mavericks had their back against the wall, it was the only game they won in the series. The Celtics came back out and won the next one by like 20. So to your point, if this is a championship team, it needs to be a wake-up call. And they need to come back in game 4 and throw the next punch. My concern is that it doesn't happen that way. I'm going to use Memphis again as an example. Memphis is not Minnesota, obviously. But game 4 against Memphis, game 4 against Memphis was also not good. And like the Thunder looked pretty bad in that game. They found a way to win it. But I'm not convinced that just because of what happened tonight, they're going to suddenly come out and look like a different team in game 4. I would expect the mentality to look different. To your point about you can't do everything at 100 all the time, I wouldn't expect this type of offensive performance from the Timberwolves in game 4. That would be insane because the Thunder dished out their share of blowouts this postseason too. And it doesn't necessarily carry over game to game. Absolutely.
And the offensive performance by the Wolves is like unsustainable to shoot 57% from the field and 50% from 3. That's just like crazy. The flip side is, and I rebuked you the other night, and I think my point stood, but you were correct. You said, the Wolves just need to have a better shooting game. And my response was, well, the Thunder also have not had good shooting games.
Correct.
But sometimes basketball is a very, very simple game, Justin.
Yep. And it's
does the ball go in the basket or does it not go in the basket?
And it often correlates with whether you're playing at home or away. And we've seen that with the Thunder. They're shooting. I saw a stat tonight. I don't have it on hand, so I'm going to get roughly in the ballpark. Like 26% from behind the arc on the road in the playoffs.
Yep.
That's horrendous.
You would think at some point something would give,
It's
right? Like
horrendous.
at some point they would hit shots. They just,
Yeah.
I don't know. The shooting thing is very frustrating because they're getting good shots. They're getting open shots.
My point has been eventually a good shot that you always miss is not a good shot anymore.
Yeah, that's
and
fair.
that's what was encouraging about the first 2 games to me is they were intentionally getting into the paint. They had like 8 3-point attempts in the first half of game 1. That was the most like breath of fresh air from this team. It felt like they realized like, hey, we can't make a 3 to save our lives. Maybe we should go inside where, yeah, the baskets count for 1 point less, but we can actually put the ball in the hole. That is what they need to get back to. And I want to get to the super chat because it was the next point I was going to make.
Yep.
Is yes, Minnesota's probably not going to shoot this well in the next game. And yes, this should be a wake-up call for Oklahoma City. I would expect the defensive intensity to ramp up. But as Avant Traders points out in this super chat, he asks, is OKC in trouble now that Minnesota changed their defensive game plan and packed the paint, not allowing SGA to drive by Jaden and forcing OKC to shoot threes? This is exactly what I wanted to talk about. Yet momentum's a thing, home court is a thing. Schematically, this was a big adjustment. Minnesota in the first 2 games, kind of inexplicably, was like trying to pressure Shea at half court. And DiVincenzo, McDaniel, like nobody could stay in front of Shea. And so he was getting to the basket at will. That's how you play Rudy off the floor. Tonight, not the case. They were dropping. They were doing a lot more gap help. They were cutting off driving lanes. And it made things difficult. It looked a lot more similar to what Denver did and found some success with in some of the games in the previous series. And then Oklahoma City just played right into it, right? Like the little clip they showed at halftime, I thought was really good because Mark Daigneault was telling the team basically exactly what I was thinking. We've got to be more aggressive on offense. We got to move around. We got to make more passes. We got to make like the first move on offense instead of just standing around. And that's whenever this team faces a defense like that, going back to the Denver series, it feels like they just default into this like, everyone's going to stand around. We might make a pass and we're going to shoot a 3 that's like kind of mostly open. But again, when have you made it in the playoffs?
I mean, I think that's a catch-22 as well. Like you don't want to play into their hand, but whenever they're sinking that far back, the only way to loosen that thing up is to hit outside shots. And so it's like, do you keep ramming your head against the brick wall? Or do you try different tactics? So there's give and takes a lot.
That's exactly what I want to see. So what happens in game 4?
Yeah.
Because they're going to come out and do the same thing on defense. What does Oklahoma City do to counter?
Yeah.
Because they can't do this again. It would be malpractice to try it again.
And look, again, it sounds dumb. I'm just going to say it. At some point, the ball just has to go through the hoop.
I'm not convinced.
Like,
I'm not convinced.
No, I get you. But when we get deep down in the weeds of all of this, Justin, like the idea of this defensive adjustment and changing this and doing that and blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, all we're talking about on defense is how can we lower the percentage chance of you scoring points? And on offense, how can we raise the percentage chance of us making points? It's just we're tweaking percentages, 2 here, 3 there, as far as does the ball go through the hoop or not. At some point, you just have to put the ball through the hoop, and the Thunder just have not been good at doing that from anything outside of like 15 feet for the entire playoffs.
And
it's frustrating because we have a 2-year sample size. Kaysen Wallace can shoot.
Yeah.
Like Lou Dort is streaky, but Lou Dort can shoot.
Yep.
J-Dub, I think the wrist, like I'm not going to make excuses, but I've never seen the dude shoot that many air balls in my life. Like the wrist is playing a factor in that, right? Chet can shoot. Like we have a large enough sample size to know that these guys can put the ball through the hoop. It just hasn't happened. And so I'm with you. Like the 3's not going in, but now they're just packing the paint and not letting you get to the rim. So then now where does the tweak come to where you say, okay, We have to find a new way to raise our percentage of getting the ball through the hoop. What does that look like? That's on the coaching staff. I'm sure.
Absolutely. And that's what they did in the Denver series.
Yeah.
They figured it out. It was getting behind the zone. Minnesota's packing a lot deeper than Denver did. So I don't think that is the solution in this series. I have not analyzed anything well enough. I've tried to not analyze anything from this game enough to know what the solution is.
I don't know. You might just burn this tape. I don't even know if there's anything to learn from it.
I think that is fair. I do think Daigneault was getting a little bit of data in the second half, starting Isaiah Joe instead of Hartenstein. Like I feel like that was maybe all they could get out of this game is some maybe lineup matchup data in that third quarter before everything fell apart. And you put in Ousmane Dieng and Dylan Jones.
I wouldn't be upset if I didn't see Isaiah Joe on the court.
Well, funny you should mention that. David Skelton gave us a super chat that says, bench Joe for AJ, 3 and a handle over Nada. I agree with the first part. I don't know if I agree with the second part.
Yeah.
Love AJ. He was 6 of 11, came in, had some fun in garbage time. I don't know, man. There's just, it was brutal. There's not, to your point, there's not a lot to like for this Thunder team tonight. I think the defensive thing concerns me a lot more than what Minnesota did on offense tonight. Because teams get hot. They get hot at home. We've seen it happen, whatever. Defensively, it feels like they did a great job tonight exploiting Oklahoma City's weakness.
Mm-hmm.
Shea looked as indecisive as he's looked all season tonight.
I agree.
That's an issue. That
Absolutely.
can't happen in game 4.
And I'm interested to see, again, how it looks differently in game 4. And again, I also think that this just snowballed. It felt like a fight where the guy gets punched first, gets a little drunk, and can just never regain their footing. And it's just punch after punch after punch after punch.
Yeah.
The Thunder just can't get punched. You might get punched first. You can't get punched that hard, and you have to get off the mat. It just, whenever they have like those third quarter runs where the defense is just swarming and insane and everything's going their way, it's like they are playing ahead of the offense. It's the rotations are, they are in control of the game, and they're making the offense react to what they're doing. Tonight just felt like the complete opposite. It felt like Minnesota grabbed this game from the opening tip and just never looked back. Never took their foot off the gas, and the Thunder were just trying to keep up. And that's no recipe to win a basketball game.
That's not where you want to be. No. And I feel like a good epitome of that is Ant just like trucking Lou Dort when he's trying to go around a screen, ripping the ball away and going away on that fast break dunk. Like that was what, like 2 minutes into the game. That felt like if you have to summarize the game in a play, that was it.
Mm-hmm.
No whistle, extremely aggressive, blew over Lou Dort and slams it on. That was everything Minnesota did tonight. They were the aggressor. The referees awarded them, much like they awarded Oklahoma City for being the aggressor in the first 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
And Oklahoma City never recovered, to your point. They took a punch in the mouth and didn't fight back. They had like the tiniest of rebuttal to start the third quarter, just enough to like start to give me a little hope. And then just as quickly, the Wolves went on like a 25-4 run after that. I think you said, Jacob, maybe this is what the Thunder team needed. Where my head's at currently, I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. And I think this is what's going to be interesting to see in game 4. The Timberwolves, I can't speak for the team other than what we heard in post-game interviews, which they looked pretty dejected after the first 2 games. Ant didn't even speak to the media. Listening to Timberwolves podcasts, they're all packing it in. Again, not to say a Timberwolves podcast defines how the team felt about it, but they were like, Finch is cooked, the Wolves are cooked, they don't have an answer, they're screwed, like they just can't match up with what Oklahoma City's doing. Like they were done. I guarantee that's not the tone anymore. A win this drastic, it was the largest lead in the Western Conference Finals history at halftime.
Yep. And it injects life into them.
That Exactly. Now, yeah, we're down 2-1, but look what we just did. Like, we can do that again.
But
versus if you win this game, say you win this game in dramatic fashion, like you said, you win by 6, something like that down the stretch. Does that confidence feel as high for Minnesota? I don't know that it does.
that's fair. I also think there's such a huge difference, and we don't know what the future holds, but there's such a huge difference in us reacting game by game. You just mentioned that Boston-Dallas game.
Yep.
Like,
Lit a fire under him.
Dallas was probably feeling that way after that blowout win against Boston too. And then Boston came back and responded, right? So, like, looking at it in the moment, I think is very different from, we may be having a completely different conversation 5 days from now, you know?
Might be having a different conversation Monday night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just, we're going to see what happens. But I just think that give and take there, like we're so in the moment with it. No,
absolutely.
So it's,
we'll
see.
I'm not, some people in the chat, I think, are misconstruing what I'm trying to say here. I'm not saying the Thunder like gonna blow this series. I still believe the Thunder win this series. I'm just saying tonight's result was maybe like the one kind of result that you don't want to do for the Thunder. Like, you could handle a close loss. It's kind of expected. Minnesota was shot really poorly in the first 2 games. They're going to shoot better in game 3, but at least like give it a fight. To lose by 42 is a different conversation than probably the one the Thunder want to be having.
Losing by 20. Now. But again,
losing by 20 is even a different conversation,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. I kind of fall on the other side of the coin where you got your ass whooped. Now you have to come out with some urgency. And maybe
what was Shea's quote about, like, when you get beat up, you got to come back?
Whenever you go through the hood and get beat up, you can't go back through the hood and get beat up again or something like that.
That's right. He's dead on. And the Thunder team, to their credit, to your point, they've responded all year.
Yep.
They've not gotten
the playoffs.
They have not gotten punked 2 times in a row all season. And I don't expect them to starting now.
Yeah, I agree. And at the end of the day, I still think this is the best team in basketball. And I think they come out and respond. Everybody puts up a stinker. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm choosing to look at the side of hope and looking to choose at the side of what I've seen from this team this entire season. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I don't know. But we will see come Monday night.
Yeah, absolutely.
Justin, do you want to say anything else before we get off of this thing?
I was going to ask, like, if you saw anything that, like, to beat the defense other than making shots, which is the obvious answer. Like, what can Oklahoma City do Monday if Minnesota brings this look back to make Minnesota pay for the, I'm not going to say gambles, but for the decisions they're making on defense, the trade-offs?
I mean, the easy answer is make shots. I don't know if just ramming your head into the brick wall over and over and over and over again is, at the end of the day, going to be what's best for you. Typically, when you ram your head in a brick wall over and over, you get concussed and pass out. But
it's true.
I also don't think it's bombing 53s. I think there's a middle ground there. There has to be good ball movement, player movement. You have to make that defense shift side to side. You have to make them think. You have to put them in multiple actions.
Yep.
One thing that kind of annoyed me, Justin, was at the start of the second quarter, they brought in, I don't even know homeboy's name off the bench who hasn't played at all.
The guard?
Yeah, 00.
Yeah.
Junior?
Why am I blanking? Jalen Clark? No, Terrence Shannon.
Terrence Shannon. And
yeah, and he was awesome in one of their regular season matchups too.
Yeah, throwing in buckets. But the thing that annoyed me was on the other side, he was matched up on J-Dub, and the Thunder would bring a screen to get a better defender on J-Dub. And I was like, man, let him attack that and spray out, or inverse it where Cason Wallace is handling the ball and J-Dub comes up and sets that screen. Don't give them the easy switch. Like, make Terrence Shannon Jr. like have to defend in space on a pick and roll.
Yep.
Like, if you inverse that to where instead of J-Dub handling and getting a switch, if you bring J-Dub up to set the screen on Cason Wallace's man, and then Terrence Shannon Jr. has to decide if he's going to switch or not, then you can attack that.
Yep.
I thought they didn't attack places they should have attacked. there has to be more off-ball screens. There has to be more off-ball movement.
That's
there has to
it
be
for
more
me.
ball movement.
Yep.
And
I
mean, living that
driving
mid-range
kick
again.
penetration.
Exactly. And ideally the drive and kick threes go in, but if you can also drive and kick and make them close out and then attack those closeouts,
Yes.
good things happen.
Shoot a midi.
Shoot a midi, get to the rim and challenge them instead of in a set defense off a rotating defense.
Yep.
So there's going to
Totally
be
agree.
adjustments. There's a reason it's a 7-game series.
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head because that's something aside from the specifics of the Denver series where they had a guy kind of slipping behind the zone. The times when Oklahoma City's offense looked stagnant against the zone is when they did exactly what they did tonight, which is stand around, make one pass, and shoot a pretty good open three that didn't go in.
Absolutely.
When they found success is when they moved around, when they penetrated, made the defense collapse, kick it out, make guys work. Because that's part of it too. Just making Minnesota work on defense
exactly
pays dividends on both ends of the floor, right? If Minnesota gets to stand around for 20 seconds while Shea stands at the top of the key and like does a dribble handoff and then like that's all your action, that's like what Minnesota did in game 1 and 2, making it easy.
You also got to turn them over and get in transition more. I think that falls on the Thunder defense.
Absolutely. Well, I saw a stat tonight that said, I think first time since March 25th that the Thunder lost the turnover battle.
Yeah.
Again, credit to them. I would expect that to not be the case in game 4.
Yep. You got to turn them over,
but you can't
speed
do
them
that.
up. You got to speed them up.
Yep. They looked way too comfortable across the board.
Totally agreed.
Yep. I'm with you. Again, there's a lot to criticize tonight. I don't think the outcome of this game changes my outlook on the series. The Thunder are going to win this series.
I feel the same.
But
sometimes you put up a stinker, but
sometimes you put up a stinker, but you have to learn from this. And the Thunder have shown the ability to do that through the season and through the playoffs. So I expect that to continue. It's gonna be a wild one on Monday night. Hopefully we get to podcast after a win.
Absolutely.
Because that's more fun.
Absolutely. We calling it?
I'm ready to call it. Well, actually, Luke with the super chat. The worst part of this is the end of Dave's Linsanity run. We haven't addressed that yet. This is Dave's first L after giving us a super chat, and I'm a little worried to shut down the pod, Jacob, because you know who hasn't been in here yet?
No Dave.
Maybe Dave's hanging it up.
Yeah, Dave, it was a good run, buddy.
The Discord, I don't think Dave's in the Discord, but the Discord had some funny comments about Dave tonight.
Yes.
I think we need a new Dave. I think Luke's my new Dave.
Luke, you're the new Dave. Luke, you just gave $5. If they win on Monday, you got to come back Monday night and give another $5, Luke.
I think that's how this works.
All right. Well, this pod is taking place for the Sunday pod tomorrow. So no Sunday pod. And it looks like Luke is in. Luke said, let's go.
Let's go.
Luke, you're on the hook, buddy. So we will see you guys Monday night after game 4. Win or lose, we will be here. Make sure to come join. Hey, take your Sunday. Don't think about basketball. just enjoy your long weekend. And then we'll reconvene Monday night. Simple as that. You guys have a great Memorial Day weekend. Unless you don't live in the States, then just have a great regular weekend. We will see you Monday night about 10:30. Until then, and as always, Thunder up.